A very good morning, thanks for clicking on to the Saturday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. We've got some very interesting times coming up. We do have a sudden stratospheric warming event taking place as I speak, and it does look as if we have got a colder pattern to come as we go towards the latter half of February, and a good chunk of March could be the same as well. So this is a true sudden stratospheric warming event. You've got strong winds circling the Arctic region, and when those winds slow down, it tends to allow a collapse of air inwards. So as the polar vortex spins around the basically the North Pole region-ish, and then it starts to slow down, it starts to become wavy, and it eventually starts to kind of collapse in on itself. And through compression, as the air sinks, it heats. So the air itself isn't heating other than through compressional warming. Something like kind of downslope winds, how the air compresses and it heats up. So we've got that taking place at the moment, and what is going to happen is the polar vortex essentially will split into two pieces. One piece going towards North America and Eastern Asia, and another piece that is going to be dropping in to Eastern Europe. And what we're going to do is essentially we're going to have a very warm 10 millibar temperature profile covering the Arctic region, with all that Arctic air pushed south through the troposphere, and eventually in 6 to 10 days from now we're going to see that colder air travelling eastward. So you essentially reverse the westerlies and you change the jet stream from west to an easterly, and it looks as if we're coming all together into a setup here that is very similar to January of 2013. That is the last time we've seen a true sudden stratospheric warming, and there is of course shades of 2010 in that as well. How severe will this cold spell be? I would be reluctant at this moment in time to say we're going to get another 2010 or we're going to get worse than 2010. I've seen that on social media. I think it's easy to get excited about this and then of course jump on the extreme card. What I do think is going to take place is we are going to see a colder, much colder pattern, and something that is going to lock in for a prolonged period of time. Sudden stratospheric warming events, when they favour the UK, tends to hold for a good 10 to 15 day period. So let's look at the GFS. 10 millibar temperature anomaly here. You can see of course all the warmth generally from the UK up through Iceland, up through Greenland. Watch as we progress through the next week or so how we start to really reverse the profile, warming things dramatically. Look at that over the Davis Straits here. Now watch very carefully as we're talking about this warming taking place over Greenland and eventually pushing up into the Arctic region. Look at the lobes of cold, the pieces of the polar vortex. We've got one piece that's over the North Pacific, we've got another piece that's over southeastern Europe. Watch as we see the Arctic warming at 10 millibars, of course, this is way high up. Watch how you see the cold start to push, the cold pool push towards the British Isles here, and this will be a response that takes about 6 to 10 days, but this is going to be a very interesting end game to winter, that's for sure. So you can see here how it travels across the southern portion of Europe, and then what we're left with is two very strong stratospheric ridges here. We've got one that's sitting over Hudson Bay, and another one sitting over northwest Europe, and we're linking the two up. So this to me looks like a very high latitude, strong blocking pattern that would support a cold easterly for a good period of time across the British Isles. So here we've got a lot of interesting things coming up, that's for sure. Let's have a look at the European chart here for a wee second, and I'll show you exactly what we're looking at here in terms of Europe and the response that we're going to start to see taking place here Now let's have a look at the 850 millibar temperature anomaly here. We'll go to the region of Europe, and what we're going to see is the cold air responding down at low levels here. If I can just pull up the European chart here to give you a better view as to what we're talking about here, and I am struggling actually to find Europe here for some reason. Aye, here we go. So let's have a quick look at Europe, right? 850 millibar temperature anomaly, so that's of course at 5,000 feet, and you can see here how the modelling is seeing that response. And this is important. You can get warming at 10 millibars, but of course you don't get that transfer down into the troposphere, which is the lower atmosphere, our atmosphere, the atmosphere in which we get our weather. So as you can see here, we are going to start to see the cold air. Now, we've got waves of cold coming in. We've got more snow potential for tomorrow. The Atlantic continues to drive at the moment, even though we've got the ongoing stratospheric warming event. There's a lag period between the response. But watch southeastern Europe here as we go through the period. So we continue to see waves of cold coming in from the west, blah de blah de blah, and then all of a sudden you can start to see the turnaround take place. You can start to see like a reverse in the atmosphere here, and that is the response to the sudden stratospheric warming event here. So you can start to see as we go towards the end period of this loop, we start to slow down the westerlies. You can see lots of warm air taking place over eastern parts of Europe, and unfortunately the GFS is actually not showing what I'm trying to show you here. But let's have a quick look here at the tropical tidbit site here, because you can see more on that here. Just bear with me a second here. I've went too far now to cut this video. You can see here that let's go quickly to the weeklies. There we go, and there we go. So you can see here 2 meter temperature anomaly real quick. There we go. You can see here the response, right? This is week 1, colder than normal. Week 2, colder than normal in the west. Week 3, you start to see what's taking place here. You start to see the cold air locking in. Week 4, week 5, week 6, which takes us out to the end of March. So it does to me look as if the modelling is all over colder than normal, but it's very difficult to pinpoint exactly how much colder than normal that is going to be here. I'm going to put up a post. Stu Ostro of the Weather Channel put up a great blog post back, I think, on the 5th of February, which looks in more detail at the polar vortex, the tropospheric polar vortex, and a little bit more in-depth explanation as to what the heck this all means. It's a wee bit over my head, if I'm being honest. I'm trying to understand that as best I can, but I'll put that blog post up for you to read. That might give you a better understanding as to exactly what the whole stratospheric warming thing is all about here. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching. A bit of a longer video today, but of course there is a lot to talk about. Hope you have a great weekend, and I'll be back in the next couple of days with more. Bye for now.